right, so we will kick things off with Shelby. Shelby and I went to UWM at the same time and graduated from the graphic design program. I think it has switched to design and visual communication as we were exiting the program. So we have kept in touch. So again, those keywords of networking, we kept in touch on social media, Facebook, and also on LinkedIn. So been able to see some of our amazing work. So let's just kick things off with you. Just tell us more about you, your employer, and just a nice introduction, please.
Sure. My name is Shelby Smeltzer. I own a brand and website design studio called Shelby Design Co. And I primarily design brands and websites for small businesses in the Milwaukee area and also around the country. I'm slowly building a small team of independent contractors that help support me in their specialties, things that I don't specialize in, such as website development and junior design work, helping me with production. And it's been going really great. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. And then I had a business prior to this as well, which we can talk about later. Cliffhanger.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then let's have Howard. Howard and I met a couple years ago through a creative project, bringing together the Asian community and Black community over our project we did with the Bucks, which was super cool. He also works, we both just started working at UWM. So his background is mainly photography, but also creative. So Howard, hello.
Great. So good to see you. So good to see all the panelists and students. Yeah, my name's Howard. Let's see, my journey to design and creative entrepreneurship kind of, I think a lot of us zigzag in our careers, and I've done a lot of stuff independently and with also with agencies and institutions. Worked for a nonprofit organization called Walker's Point Center for the Arts for 4 years, doing marketing, design, and gallery management. Currently, I am a graduate student here at our program at Tech School Art and Design program. I'm mostly focusing on photography, but also utilizing digital fabrication as well as sculpture in my work. And then also in the past, done commercial work, photography work, a lot of weddings, which was really fun, but also exhausting. And if you're interested in getting into that, please reach out. I give you some pointers. Like Quay said, I've done a lot of freelance work, worked with institutions like Medical College of Wisconsin on grant projects, working with veterans, and also a lot of community projects as well. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I'm looking forward to hear your questions and learn more about the other panelists. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Hey, Brandon. Brandon and I are good college friends as well. We did not go to the same school, but we are friends through fraternity and sororityhood. And so he is tuning in from Florida. I don't know where in Florida. I haven't been able to keep up, but excited to have you. Will you introduce yourself, please?
Likewise. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Can you guys hear me? Everybody good? Okay. Thank you. So yeah, my name is Brandon Hadnot-Walker, and I currently am a UI UX designer professionally. I work for the company known as Triller, which is sort of like a video content platform. I have a background in graphic design and video production, and just really a a strong mix of multimedia things. I attended the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I was class of 2011, and there I majored in media arts and game development. And it was a a nice mix of experiences when it comes to things in the digital realm. That's where I studied to know how to do a bit of animation, web development on the front end, a bit of coding, so back end things, a bit of photography, a bit of video production, and also, of course, game development. Sorry if I'm just going really fast. Just let me know if I'm talking too much or too fast, because I love to talk. But on the daily in my job, at least, as a UI UX designer, I just am responsible for taking in creative briefs from our clients, sometimes internally, to be able to perform a task and solve problems, really. I found that UI UX design is really about that, and I love puzzles, so that's great for me. I don't know if I'm saying too much that should be saved for later in
You're good.
the
You're all good.
room. But yeah, UI UX design has been a great new discovery for me because of how close it is to what I was doing before with graphic design. For over 10 years now, I had been doing freelance design. And it's funny because I had a really rough start. I was doing everything wrong. I didn't know anything about contracts or anything like that. So if you want to know about mistakes to avoid, ask me. I've been at Triller for about 3 years now, almost, and it's just been a wonderful experience, and I'm just so elated to be here today and talk to you all about it. Is there anything I missed?
Nope, you got it.
All right.
And it's cool. I didn't know much about Triller, but I did watch the fight or attend the fight. I wasn't really watching it. I was just there for the vibes. But noticed that that was a streaming service for the match as well.
Yep.
Thank you so much, and good to see you again, and we'll virtually release. Gonna round things off with Sarah. Sarah is a good friend, and also we graduated from the design program as well. Sarah, Shelby, and we all did. So been through the design trenches, and also still keeping contact. So we just went to see one of the most amazing concerts ever last summer. I have to mention it. Backstreet Boys. So we're good friends, and she's a great designer. So yeah, please introduce yourself, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm Sarah McGinnis. I am currently an art director for K. James Design up in Appleton, Wisconsin. I started with K. James 9 years ago as a junior designer, and I've kind of worked through designer, senior designer, and now art director. We do a mix of print and digital design. I would say I'm mainly focusing on print, and probably a little bit more unique canvas that I'm working with. I do a lot of CPG work, so consumer packaged goods, for a large company in the area, and I do on product design. So some packaging, but more so what is actually being printed on the product.
Awesome, thank you. And again, for all my students, please let's engage. And if you have questions, feel free to just go ahead and ask right away in the chat. So I want this to be as interactive as possible. I have a list of questions just to start us. But if you guys want to piggyback off of each other or want to dive into anything, I want it to be a natural conversation. So I am just a guide, but I'm not the bouncer necessarily. So looking for a fluid conversation. So let's kick things off with, what do you love most about your job? And Brandon, let's start with you. I think you were kind of going into that a bit before.
Okay, sure, absolutely. What I love most about working at Triller is work-life balance currently. Since the pandemic, the company had gone just about fully remote, and I had dived right into the middle of all of that. So it was pretty nice. It's my first remote job that I've ever had. So there's just this stark difference between going into work every day and all the meetings and everything, and just being able to do that from home. It allows me just a lifestyle that just allows me to still work honestly, but also be better at everything, better at being a husband, a father, a son, nephew, etc. I can do what I need to do and complete my tasks from this app that we use called Jira, which is like a whiteboarding app. I can get into that later. That's just a part of UI UX stuff. And just when I'm done with that, to be able to just communicate with my superiors and say, hey, my kid needs medicine. I need to go and drop that off at school. Is that okay? And then they're just cool with that. And not to say that that's not a thing that can happen when you're working at a job in person, but for me, it's like a first time experience sort of thing. So I'm really loving this new age of like comfort at work for me, because I've always been a homebody, and I've had so many years of just doing my client work from home. So it just felt really natural to just be here. So yeah, I think that's like my biggest thing that I love about working there.
Definitely. Nice to have a flexible work-life balance. A lot of people feel like they couldn't find that at a job, like you have to work for yourself to have it, but to have employers that are being more flexible and understanding, so that they can have better employees, it's definitely helpful. Anyone else want to add to that? What do you love most about your job?
I can answer. I work mostly with small business owners, and I'm typically working directly with the founder. And it is so fulfilling to be able to connect with them on such a personal level as people. I really love all of my clients as people, which is important to me. And then the fact that we're able to also connect on a business level, and what I do is really help them grow their business, which a lot of times changes their lives. And it's just so fulfilling to me to be able to have that personal one-on-one connection with these founders and really see the impact. And I follow them, I become friends with them over the years and see how their business grows, and they grow a team, and they, lease a warehouse space. And it's just really, that's probably one of the things I love the most, is seeing the growth firsthand and how it changes people's lives and their businesses. That's it.
My answer would be similar to Shelby's. By no means am I close with the CEO of the company that we do work for, but I do get to do a lot of consumer research with consumers who are actually using the products and understanding the needs that they have and how these products can change their life. Just seeing the way that design can have an impact on people every day in small ways that are really meaningful.
Beautiful, guys. Howard, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'll echo what everybody said. I think flexibility, especially in this day and age, is a big benefit, but also great asset of this, of being a creative, either working in this in agency or as an entrepreneur or freelancer. Also just developing these relationships. I know a lot of stuff is on screen, but and I have developed great relationships in the past. When I had a marketing agency called Art Fluent for a couple of years, and we worked with local arts nonprofits. We got to go to extraordinary performances because we worked on their marketing campaigns and got to know so many local young talent that are still out there thriving, and I could see them grow and progress in their own careers, and really get to know them because I had to work so closely in sort of in the trenches with them, so that I can produce marketing material that best speak to the task.
Thank you. Sorry, I was taking a peek at those questions too. Yeah, having that work-life balance is everything. And then also feeling like you're making an impact or being a part of an impact. Just seeing that as like a common theme amongst what we're saying, to see some of the impact of your work, or to be more personable with the people that you're working and collaborating with. Thank you. Another question, how do you organize your time and your task? Let's start with Shelby.
I'm a little bit type A, and I feel like the longer I've been a business owner, the more type A I've become.
Mhm.
Because you kind of have to be as your own boss. I could just sleep all day if I wanted to, but nothing is going to get done. So I structure my days pretty much as if I was going to a physical workplace every day. I usually sit down at my desk like 8:30 or 9, and then I'm working until about 3 or 4, depending on the day,
Mhm.
with an hour-long lunch. And in general, I'm focusing on, and this took me a long time to pay attention to my own preferences and my own like flow creatively to figure out when I have the most creative energy compared to when I'm just like feeling tired.
Definitely.
And I do my best creative and heavy thinking work in the morning. So I always devote my mornings to that, and I block off my calendar so that no one can schedule a meeting with me during those times. And then afternoons are basically meeting things. If I don't have meetings, then I can do like admin work, like respond to emails, send out invoices, contracts, communicate with my team, all that stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it was a process of figuring out when I did my best work and how I wanted to structure my time, because I had the privilege of being able to design my days however I wanted because I work for myself.
Awesome. Are there any programs you use, or platforms you use, or?
Yeah, good question. So Google Calendar is my number one source of truth for what I'm doing every day. I also use Monday.com, and I've actually been outsourcing some help with a systems specialist to help me set up Monday.com to best project manage amongst all my clients. So she is a great resource and has helped me build out templates and things. And honestly, I'm still like getting the hang of it. I'm very much a paper person. I always have my notepad next to me and I'm writing things down. Basically, I write things down there first and then I translate it into the digital version. The biggest reason I needed to do that was because in order to have a team, they need to know they can't see what's on my paper here. So we need to be able to communicate digitally. And Monday.com is a great tool for that. And then I also use Loom. Loom like saves my life. I use Loom all day long because if you don't know what Loom is, it's basically a screen recorder that I can talk out loud and my computer is listening, and then it's videoing my screen. And that's generally how I'm presenting all of my brand projects, my website projects, and also how I'm handling edits back and forth with clients. I send them a Loom video. If they have questions that are easy for me to just film a 5 or 10 minute Loom video, I do that all the time. It saves me so much time. And then the other huge one is Calendly, that anytime someone wants to schedule a meeting with me, I send them a scheduling link through Calendly. They just pick a time that works for their calendar, and then like I mentioned before, I have already pre-blocked off my time so that I make sure that I don't have meetings when it doesn't work for me. I would say those are the huge, like, game-changing programs I use.
Thank you. And even I'm learning things. I look into Loom for sure. Instead of me using
my
my
gosh.
phone, being like, see, this is where you messed up at, and trying to
Yeah.
type on my phone, on my laptop at the same time. Anyone else want to add to that? How you organize your day and your tasks?
I would say,
oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. First, Shelby, I think there's a plugin or some sort of feature for Google Calendars that you can like send out a link for book within this time slot, which I've used before, is very helpful.
Yeah,
Since
I
you
didn't
had
know
such a list of things. So yes, Google Calendar is great. We use a program called Function Point, which is online and helps schedule our team and figure out capacity, workload, and how we need to shift things around. But really, unlike Shelby, I am not a self-starter and getting my own timelines going. I'm actually putting one off right now. But all of my timelines are very much client driven. So it depends on when they need things. And then we kind of back into the timelines from there based on what needs to happen, what needs to get done to get there.
And Brandon, I think you wanted to,
Oh yeah, sure. As far as my job at Triller goes as a UI UX designer, we use Jira. It's just this sort of whiteboarding app that allows you to give tickets to your team members, or the project manager essentially would give you tickets so that everybody can see their tasks. And it's just, for me, I need that because I found that if I'm just sort of spoken to when it comes to like, oh, here's your project, here's what you got to do, it's this, and this. And then I open up Figma, which is an app that we use for UI UX design. I'm just like, oh, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do? But when it's in Jira, I can see right there my task list, and it just feels so good to be checking things off. And it's like, okay, I got this done and this done and this done. And they have a little calendar in there as well, but we still use like Google Calendar all the time for everything anyway. So we just use those things together. And yeah, that's how we stay organized as a team. A lot of Slack notifications too, for just things that we just need to like say right away. And I'm not really sure if Figma has asynchronous like comments in terms of like audio yet, but we like to leave each other comments too and everything. And it's just super helpful.
awesome, thank you. And Travis had a question, clarifying question. Do you work on design portion of user interface or user experience?
Oh, design, yes.
Awesome, thank you. All right, next question. I see some good ones are coming in. We're just gonna try to align them, so I'm not ignoring you guys, but we will ask those as well. How do you make your decisions at work? Like, what is your process? So whether it's, something coming in that is important, and now you got to communicate with other people that their stuff is less important, or even making maybe a design decision on behalf of the client or part of your team. What is just your kind of design process or thought process?
So this is a really hard question. I don't know how I make decisions. I just do. I guess one thing that's helpful. So I mentioned that I like very much structure my days to be the same. So I typically have lunch at like noon, 12:30, and I always go for a walk after lunch, which is like such a great breather. And during my walks is like my reflection time. And that's usually when I'm thinking about things that I need to decide on or make a choice about or whatever else. And then I get back, and then my afternoon is like meetings or admin work and like acting on the reflecting that I did. But it's really just a lot of taking time and space to reflect and turn off the phones and turn off the distractions and just like go outside and walk and actually think constructively.
I wish I had that discipline, Shelby. I love that. But yeah, I think this is, every person will probably have a different approach to sort of start out a project. And what I've learned, and from mistakes, is that communication is very important at the very start. Communication with your team, especially communications with the client and vendors, if you have vendors coming in. So I think I would start with that. The design process will probably be more, you'll probably find time for that, but making sure that those communication, those pathways are connected and then go do the work.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
Sure. That one is a really good question, and I really like what Shelby said about getting up and taking a walk, because I am a straight up hardcore homebody, and it's really easy to like let the whole day go by and I don't get up and like go for a walk, and I wonder like, why am I so stressed? Why do I feel so heavy? So that's a really good one too. And one specifically when it comes to like a challenge that occurred is, and sorry if there are any marketing people here, but like I had to work with the marketing department on a huge project, which just so happened to be my first project. And one of them had suggested, they said, hey, why don't you put a blinking banner at the top of this microsite to get users' attention? And I was like, I had to incorporate my knowledge from like accessibility and everything when it comes to web development. I said, if you don't want to do that, you don't want to put a blinking element on the page. It could irritate viewers. It could do all these a number of things, and just cause people to like have all these hateful reviews and everything. So I think just going in with an informed decision on that end was really helpful for me too, because I could have just gone, yeah, sure, that's what you're asking for. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to fight back or anything. And it's just, I think what I've learned is also like it's really important, like how you say things, so it doesn't have to become a tug of war between departments. And thankfully they were really understanding of the point that I was making, even though like things were like really on a rush, like they had to be done like yesterday. And yeah, I think that was like a really helpful thing that just kind of was really helpful along the years that I've been working at Triller when it comes to just my daily process as well, because with UI UX design, you really have to not be afraid of asking questions. And that was something that I was terrified of doing at first. It's just like, I feel like I'm questioning my boss or the project manager, but really you have to gain as much clarity as possible before you start the design process. Otherwise you could spend literally hours on a project and you get your review and all of a sudden they're just like, oh yeah, I don't really think so. And then you have to go and change all of these things. So yeah, ask questions, a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, communication is key. I think a lot of frustration I've had with clients and things is just trying to be very thorough, really fine tuning my process. Anytime there is some mishap, was it on my end? Should I said something earlier? Could I said it clearer? But really helps things go by smoothly. Am I missing anyone? Anybody else want to chime in there?
One thing that we say quite a bit at K James is stick to the facts. And I think that can speak to a lot of things. So one, like doing your research, so everything's grounded in the objectives and in what it's supposed to be grounded in. And then Brandon, to your example, like the facts of like that can be disturbing to some people. So it's a good, quick saying to just remind yourself, like, if you have conflict in a meeting, stick to the facts. What are we all grounded in? What have we all agreed to? And it's not personal.
Definitely. Another question for you. What do you think is your greatest strength, the greatest strength you've developed over the years? And not asking anyone in particular, so whoever wants to chime in.
I would say thick skin. Definitely not taking things personally. Communication is your friend. Ask stupid questions, and yeah, keep your boundaries, but also be open to others' opinions, and really sort of let yourself be that professional persona.
Right, anyone else?
Sure. I think what Howard said was like huge about having a thick skin. And I just want to say, like, from a personal anecdote, is like when I was in college, I had a project that I spent 13 hours on, and my design instructor hated it. And I took that so personally. But now working in the professional setting, it really helps to just want to get washed by all of the constructive criticism about you know, why something isn't working, what you keep doing wrong. And then what you want to do is just take all of those comments, no matter how much they might hurt on the inside, and just apply them like Sarah said, with sticking to the facts so that you don't take them personally. And, you know, I think that that was the thing that ended up being my strength going forward, because you can easily, especially working from home, since I said that earlier, you can really get stuck in your own little bubble, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to work in my own little file. I don't want any feedback yet. You know, I don't want people to have this design without any context. They're going to say this. But if you get that feedback early enough, then you can make better informed decisions moving forward. So yeah, I definitely, you know, co-sign with that one.
That's really good advice. The first thing that came to my mind when I read this question earlier was that with every challenge I've overcome in my career, I've further instated like a belief in myself that I'll just figure it out. Like whatever comes my way, I'm slowly, and maybe this is more so just getting older too. Like I'm in my 30s now. I feel more comfortable with myself and my skills. But I think it relates to the career too, that the more things you overcome and the difficult conversations that you have with clients, or the times that you had to like put your emotions aside and just work with the facts and bite your tongue when someone's giving you hard criticism, like every time you do those things, you become stronger, and then you become more confident in your abilities when that problem comes up again in the future.
Definitely. Anyone else?
I echo everything that everyone already said. But kind of going along with that, recently I started training and learning Agile process. Brandon, I'm sure you deal with that in UX design quite a bit. But really trying to like do iterative design, work things through with a cross-functional team, and kind of tweak and pivot along the way. And one of the things that we do within Agile design or Agile process is like checking in. Progress is better than perfection is one of the big things that they say. So I know we want to have everything all perfect and wrapped up before we show anybody, but that has been so helpful too, and just like getting some ideas started, get a reaction and know whether, you know, which way you have to turn, if you have to start over, that sort of thing. So again, kind of opening yourself up to that feedback, but in maybe a different way, or sharing before you feel quite ready.
Appreciate that. We have a question from Giselle in the Q&A chat. Advice for those who are just beginning to use their skills in the professional setting for the first time. How did any of you feel when you had your first internship or experienced your first job in the professional design field? So maybe first steps, and what you've learned. I'll kick it off with like a little joke. I thought it was hilarious working a 9 to 5. I used to be so damn tired. I'm like, this is the longest day ever. Like, you know, from working side jobs or part-time jobs, like literally being at a desk from 9 to 5 was like killing me. I felt like a little kid. Like just learning how to divide up your time and working on projects, just sitting at a desk. I just felt like I had too much energy. So that's just been an honest conversation I've always had with friends and people I've mentored, like, and they're like, yeah, no, it is kind of weird, but just for making that transition, you know, you're kind of not out on your own, but you know, you want to make a good impression that levels you up. So anything you want to share from that experience, just starting out in design or starting out entry level in your field?
Sure. Oh, you can go ahead, Shelby. I think you're
I have kind of a weird winding story, that Marquela, I felt the exact same way, that I knew in my heart that I could not sit at a desk from 9 to 5, that I would go insane. So whether that was true or that was just ignorance of being young, but I was like, I can't do that. So I actually had several part-time jobs, and then was also starting my own business. And I like to have lots of irons in the fire and lots of things going on. That keeps me like creatively excited, and just, I like diversity in my schedule. So that when like I mentioned, I had a business prior to this. I actually started in the wedding industry. I had a lot of connections in the wedding industry, and I knew I wanted to start a business, but I didn't really know where to start. I had just worked for a paper company, and they also create wedding invitations. So I learned all the ins and outs of printing wedding invitations and letterpress and all the things. And then I'm like, okay, I can combine my design skill set that I just graduated with my degree and my wedding industry network, and I can design wedding invitations. That could be a place to start. So I did that. And I was also learning calligraphy at the same time, just like playing around with lots of different mediums and skill sets. I did watercolor painting for some invitations, just did all kinds of stuff. And I was having a lot of fun, but I was finding that I was just doing a lot of the implementation. There wasn't a lot of creative collaboration happening. It was more so like, hey, I want blush and script and romantic. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Sounds good. There also wasn't a lot of room for budget, honestly, because that's one of the last things that people want to put money into, is that piece of paper that their guest is just going to throw away. So long story short, I decided to pivot my business into branding and website design. Great. I had a degree in this thing called design, but I did not have a portfolio to show for it whatsoever. So I kind of had to take a step backwards and actually took on a 6-month contract design agency position locally here in Milwaukee. And that was actually my first time feeling like I was in the trenches. And it wasn't an internship. I was definitely getting paid, but it was production design work. And it was my first opportunity feeling like I needed to like prove that I was a good designer. And that was a lot of how I felt. I was like, am I good enough to do this? And every time that I designed something and they liked it, or they didn't have much feedback, I was like, yes, I can do this. And then the thing that I would say, advice to people who are starting their first job or internship, is to really latch on to those people that are just one step ahead of you, that work in the same department. And I actually was a friend of mine, Melody, who you guys know. She helped me get the job at this small agency, and she was like, I latched onto her, and I would always show her my designs first, and she would give me critiques. She'd be like, oh, I would actually put this here, or like focus on the hierarchy of this, or it needs more balance. And she helped me a ton because she was like my inside girl to help me improve my skills. And that was fantastic. So ask questions, take creative criticism, and look up to the people that are just one step ahead of you and do what they're doing.
I want to follow what Shelby was saying. I think building your community is very important, and that's one way to help you get over the self-doubt and this seemingly disease of am I good enough, or is this for me, or is what I'm doing what people want. I think I don't know why artists and creatives, we learn to do all these wonderful things, and we're giving all this leeway, and we still have this self-doubt. I think having a community is very important. I'd also add that if you have time working on projects in the community that have low risk, have that doesn't really that are more volunteer based, or doesn't really have as much pressure. I think that's a good way to not only further build community, but also show your talent and show your skills and build up your confidence. And also, gotten plenty of work from community organizations that I volunteered for or done pro bono work for. And that's how I met Quay, when we were able to work with the Bucks and do community work and get paid. So put yourself out there if you have the time and the energy. Do some work in the community and make those connections.
When
Awesome.
I first started, sorry, in design, I was terrified. I had this idea of like hierarchy and senior people know more and that sort of thing. And yes, like with time, you do learn more. But my advice would be the sooner that you can realize and keep reminding yourself that we're all humans and we're all making mistakes, and even if somebody has been somewhere for 10 years or 15 years or even 1 year, like we're all on the same playing field. And that's like one thing that has helped me get over fear of asking questions in meetings, fear of putting some of my designs out there. Unfortunately, it took a little while, but that's something that finally allowed me to be myself and just represent design in a way that felt authentic to me.
Great, thank you. And we have a question from Harry. On top of graphic design, what other skills do you have and how do you use those skills to your advantage in your career?
That's a great one that I'd love to answer because in UI UX design, from the outside looking in, or just even UI design or user interface design, you'll hear that like, oh, it's such a great thing that's really close to graphic design. So if you're a graphic designer, you can easily hop over into UI design, which has its truths. But thankfully, before I got into this profession in tech, I had practiced with a lot of different things because I'm just endlessly curious about everything in the digital realm. So that came to motion graphics and Adobe After Effects, which is a sort of animation. I got into a little bit of 3D with this free software called Blender. The entire Adobe Creative Suite, essentially, or now Creative Cloud. I'm, really old school on that one. In college, you used to be able to like buy the entire suite, but it's a whole thing.
Back in the day.
Yeah. So with Creative Cloud, I learned, obviously the big three like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and then I went on to the other things. And I can tell you now, After Effects was like a foreign language to me when I first started. But I can say that you want to be as resourceful as possible when it comes to those sorts of things, because we live in a world now where like you can type in something on YouTube and learn it almost overnight and then just master that by building on top of those things. So if you can't really afford like constant like classes or super courses on things, then try, if you are a self-starter of sorts or whatever, try the free things. Because I remember being a broke student, not calling you guys broke, but I'm just saying I get it if there is a sort of financial struggle when it comes to getting software and stuff. But anyway, yeah, that mix of skills is what really helps me when I got into UI UX design, because it's not just drawing shapes and putting shapes within shapes and everything to make an app. Sometimes you have to put together a prototype so that the other stakeholders and everything can see the context behind your design process and how it will work, because getting people excited about an idea is also a part of it. I've learned where it's really beneficial if you can become a really good storyteller. So if you're describing a product or how it works and everything, you just want to keep people following along and you want to flow well. And having a wide set of skills can really help you, because another big thing that they say about UI UX designers is that you can come from pretty much every background, and that experience that you have in any background can help with the issue. You might have somebody who, has worked in a hospital. And so you have this new augmented reality project or AR project where, a person cannot leave their bed. And how do we design for, I don't know, HoloLens or some other product where they have goggles on or they're in their phone and they can have an immersive environment? Well, the person who's worked at a hospital might have the experience we say like, hey, we know the pain points of our patients. We know that this is the things that they said that they wish that they could go see outside, and et cetera, just as a small example. So yeah, don't be discouraged from your background and feeling like you don't have enough experience, like, oh, I'm not a designer. Well, as long as you know what you can bring to the table, and you have a little bit of self-motivation to be able to learn this software, which you can usually find in like the job description and everything, and maybe spend some time learning that, then you probably got what it takes. Because I've met people who, they don't have like the wide background of knowing a wide array of software, but they are magnificent user interface designers, or better yet, even better user experience designers, because that's a whole nother world of things, talking about user experience. And they are really good at solving problems with practical and creative solutions. So yeah, that was a long answer, but I was just really excited to answer that one. That was a great question.
No, it was a great answer. Thank you. And just point out something you said about looking at some of these job descriptions and seeing, what are some of those softwares and platforms they want you to know. And I mean, some is easier said than done, but a lot of stuff could be taught, or at least on an introductory level, or investing a little bit to take more of a formal class. But no, appreciate that. Anyone else?
Something that I've come to be really valuable, and thinking about it, I've never really worked for a big company or an agency. So this is more so related to people that work either as a freelancer or in a small design agency. But if you're a web designer, copywriting is one of those skills that often gets looked over with design in general, that we learn about the visual communication, but there's also verbal communication, and a lot of it that goes into design. And if you can write the copy that's going to be captivating and impactful to people, that works with the design, you're like golden. I would say that that's one of the things that I didn't learn about until much later. I was somewhat of a good writer in general, but I actually have purchased courses myself just to learn more online about how to be a better copywriter, especially for marketing copy for websites, and learning about how to connect with the viewer with story in a marketing way. To not go too deep into that, but copywriting essentially.
No, that's a great point. I started out freelancing, working with a lot of small businesses, but I would like cringe at like some of the copy that they would send me,
Yeah.
but again, they're a small business. They don't got a marketing department. So
Right.
I am, editing copy and stuff because I care. And
Right.
I'm actually kind of good at this, when we polish it up more. But yeah, rolling into those extra tasks. But yeah, I was so anti copy editing, like it was bad. I'm like, I'm design strictly, bring me that copy that's finished. But if I'm working with small businesses, chances are they don't have it. And
Yeah.
I will not hand over something that is cute but can't be easily read. So
Right.
no, that's definitely a great skill I would add on to. Oh, yes, that copywriter or copywriter. Copywriting, like writing the copy, the editing, marketing, the actual text for promotion or campaign use.
And I
versus-
could say I use AI copywriting softwares all the time. I use ChatGPT, and Jasper is another one.
Mhm.
And if you don't think you're a good copywriter, that will make you a better copywriter. It's
Love it.
amazing.
And I have a question about that later. Let me just make sure I'm keeping up in the chat. What are you saying? Okay, just making sure you're good, Zach. Thank you. This is really good. Ooh, let's do a spicy one. Which has been more valuable in your career? I mean, which has been more valuable in your career, your education or your experience?
That is a spicy one to bring up in front of your students, Quayla. It's both, really. I mean, you learn so much on the job experience. Like, school could never replace that. But the foundations, I think you're going to have a hard time finding an employer who is willing to teach you all of the foundations. So foundations, the relationships that you build in school, you can't replace that either. So I would say really it's both. Because your on the job training is going to get you so specialized for whatever that job ends up being too, that again, you couldn't really learn in school.
I can say, yeah, I agree with what Sarah said. And also, you know, just from my experience in college, you know, I often wonder because before I got to college, I was like really self-taught on a lot of things, or so I thought. And then I got to college and I received a lot of this like constructive criticism that I wasn't quite used to from people who were like in the field and everything. And I was like, whoa, you know, and then there were like other students who I would look at across and I'm like, where did they get these ideas from? And so from college, I learned about the big research part of design, and, you know, like where you can get, you know, a lot of your inspiration from like knowing art movements and, you know, what's been done before and kind of just getting over yourself on like when it comes to like, oh, I want to have like the most original idea that nobody's ever thought of. There have been billions of people who have lived on this planet and gone and perished. And like, you know, you're not going to have the original idea that's never been thought of in the universe. And so you can take that and just do your research on certain design movements and just pull from those things to have like a good final product that you can contribute to and be happy about. So hopefully I can save you guys a lot of time on that one. And yeah, you know, college gave that to me and also allowed me access to equipment that I otherwise would not have had or been able to afford, like, you know, cameras and lights and, you know, just getting to know different photographers and how you can incorporate photography into design and how all that just works together. But I can say that like once I graduated and jumped into the field of freelance, I learned a bunch of stuff too, that, you know, that just comes with dealing with clients. And you are always going to have some new problem. You know, you're always going to have to, you're going to have to learn how to be a people person, how to listen to what people are saying to you and make sure that you're, you know, doing all the things that they've asked for while also making those informed decisions that I was talking about before, where sometimes you gotta tug or push, give them some pushback or what we say. So yeah, I think that they do go hand in hand. You know, and with that being said, that you know, with college, I gained a lot of friends and experience from people who are also in the field who understood me on an entirely different level. And then in clientele or you know, freelance work or just plain old experience between freelance and also getting my job at Triller, I've just got so much like just invaluable experience from that, from just being on the job, solving issues every day, and just learning the do's and don'ts rather quickly with that. So yeah, I've probably talked way too much on this one, but yeah, that's a great question.
Anyone else?
Well, I think just real quick, since we're all students are probably graduating soon, you all have your own understanding of how this education has benefited you. Sometimes you don't feel this. Sometimes you don't feel like your education is mounting up to something that prepares you to be in the field. But from my experience, these things add up, and a lot of these lessons will come at you later on. So I wouldn't write off your education just yet. But if you think you've been prepared and you've had this wonderful experience through the program, yeah, go with it. Just continue on to build that confidence. Keep in touch with your instructors, your professors, your peers, and these are I mean, you already finished school and you've done. This is a tremendous thing. So you should be proud and move forward and go out there and slay in any way you see fit.
Oh, you're muted, Quay.
Thank you. What resources or groups keep you inspired?
Can start. when I was ready to pivot my business, and I had already been out of college for, I think, 3 or 4 years at the time. I had to kind of relearn all the stuff I learned in school, because it had been a while that I learned branding design, and I didn't really know websites at all. I really was self-taught with website design. So the places that I look to really learn online are The Future, which has a huge design community. And I like to think that I was like one of the, founding people that helped build Chris Do's fame. But the other one is the Flux Academy with Ron Segal. He has really, really awesome free information on his YouTube channel, and also courses. I purchased his Webflow course. And then, what was the other one I was going to say? Oh, just in general, like entrepreneurs like Marie Forleo, I really like. She has a copywriting course, if you'd be interested in that. And there's some other ones too that are a bit more niche. But yeah, those are the big ones for sure.
And when you're talking about these people that you follow, like you follow them on Instagram and LinkedIn, just kind of keeping up with them.
Yes. I usually, when I sit down to eat my breakfast in the morning, I turn on YouTube right away. And I'm usually watching something by Ron or Christo. I like start my brain at 110% sometimes. But yeah, that's my favorite thing. Or even just like if you worked in an agency, like on your lunch break, just scroll through YouTube and just watch that stuff. I'll learn about sales. I'll learn about social media, that trends that are up and coming right now, or I don't know, all kinds of stuff. These things that just like get injected in your brain. It just, like we've talked about, it just builds in your skill set. And even if you know like 1% of something, if you can talk about it in a smart way, people will buy into that and they'll be like, oh, you really know what you're talking about. You're like an expert.
Yeah.
Yes. Because I watched videos on YouTube.
I also have that. That's also my morning routine.
Thanks.
So yeah, YouTube is a great place. The future is such a it's such a great resource. And there's so much lessons there, from how to deal with clients, contracts, to types or contemporary trending types and such. But yeah, just type in whatever you're interested in and let the algorithm lead you, and just keep watching videos and use it as entertainment as you eat lunch or breakfast, and just learn things casually. I know sometimes it's intimidating to approach something, but I think these videos are a good way to sort of wet your beak in a way.
Anyone?
Just putting like a little help.
Oh,
Sorry. I don't know if I cut anybody off, did I?
I was
Okay.
just asking. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm a big podcast guy lately. I love listening to actually a good friend, and I went to school with him, Harrison Wheeler's podcast, Technically Speaking. He's like the project design manager over at LinkedIn. I hope I got that right. And they have like this curated playlist of things, and they also bring a lot of good guests in from different companies and professions who just kind of really talk about the importance of design and all the things that factor into it. Really big on the future too, and Chris Do and all his things. And if I could pull up one really quick, I was just listening to it. Was it Design Milk? It's not up here on my thing, and I don't want to waste you guys' time by looking through it. But there are just a bunch of different things that you can do. Audible is also one of my favorite apps, where I just kind of look for like, what are the best books about design and whatnot. And one of them is by Jocelyn K. Gley. I don't know if I've ever heard her name out loud. but it is called Managing Your Day-to-Day or Manage Your Day-to-Day. And that one was pretty eye-opening for me because, they just talk about your design ritual. What do you do every time that you sit at your desk? And for me, I put on my noise canceling headphones. I'll either turn on one or the other, like a good design podcast or an instrumental playlist from all of my favorite movie scores, particularly Hans Zimmer and all the guys that everybody loves from those things. So it just really opened my eyes to the thing that I was doing, like not even like consciously, that I like, oh wow, every day I do the same thing, and then I typically get the same type of results, or like the successful results. And whenever I'm feeling off, I think and say like, oh, what did I not do that I usually do that makes me feel good? Whether that's like a good stretch, eating a certain way in the morning, getting a certain hours of sleep, and then, sitting down and just getting excited about the tasks that are, ahead of me. So that's that.
Awesome. And then looks like we have just a couple minutes left. So we're gonna start to wrap it up. I'm gonna use this as the wrap up question just in case it takes a long time. But as people are answering, I would love for you guys to put in the chat, our panelists, if there's a way that people can connect with you that you're comfortable with via LinkedIn or your website. If there's any conversations like that, feel free to prep a nice little note that you can copy and paste in the chat for everyone. And then our wrap up question, actually, no. Okay, there was one question I did want to answer before we go. Zach, I don't want to ignore you. Let me go back. Someone asked, I'm interested in designing websites or working for an agency that deals with web design. What qualifications or skills are important for that kind of work? So what are you seeing as a trend that's needed for people that work in web?
Something that I never realized, I took one class in website design in school. And then, like I said, beyond that, when I actually started designing websites for clients, I was just self-taught. And I never really realized that website design and website development are two completely different things. And then, like Brandon has been talking about, it even gets more niche from there when you're talking about user experience and user interface design, depending on how complex the site needs to be. So if you'd be interested in just the design portion, the copywriting for the websites would absolutely be a fantastic adjacent skill to know. And then user experience, user interface design, awesome. Animations in website design are huge right now. And I think that would be also a really great place to go. Also 3D design and like 3D modeling is a huge trend in website design as well. App design.
Awesome.
I could go on and on. But then if you're interested in development, that's like a whole other conversation.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
Sure. Sorry, I'm talking so much. I feel like I'm.
No, you're good. I'm apologizing. Look.
Yeah, for web development, it just really depends on what you want to do. What Sarah, Shelby, I'm sorry, said was huge. But then you also wanted to figure out if you want to be front end as a designer, or do you want to do back end work where you're like one of the developers? And I can tell you now, it's a lot of stress. But if that's your thing and you just love the thrill of like coding and everything, go for it. Or if you want to be a full stack developer, where you pretty much do all of the things, and people will ask you to not only build websites but apps and like other sorts of things, like yeah, just a lot of that. So kind of I said this a bit earlier, but if you look on LinkedIn in the job section and you find a type of job that you want to get, you might not even want to work for that company, but look for the pattern of what companies are asking for right now. And look at that list of responsibilities of what you're going to do. They'll usually say you need to know this, this, and this, or like you need to know, I don't know, Node React, which is like a sort of JavaScript system, you know, or like a programming language that you might need to know. I used to see that one a lot, especially, and it was really frustrating trying to get into UI UX design because there's a difference between a UI UX designer and a UI UX developer, and you'll find that, you know, some companies are actually asking for a developer, but they say that they're asking for a designer. And you just want to be on a close lookout for that. Otherwise you might be in for some awkward interviews. So yeah, you know, if you want to design websites, just figure out what side of it you want to be on. Think of a theater stage. You see everything that's happening on the stage with the actors jumping around like Hamilton, or, you know, for an example, but you don't see the magic that's happening behind the curtains where somebody's controlling the lights, you know, just the music, all of those things. The people behind the curtains are the people who are going to be the developers of a website. The people on stage doing all the fancy things are going to be the people who are designing the website. And that also ties into the UI UX design thing. Whereas, you know, if you are designing as a UI UX designer, and you're just making the layout of the website in terms of how it looks, there's no code attached or anything. You want to keep the developers in mind if they are working in the same space as you, because you basically have to design to their own limitations, because they might not have the bandwidth or the time or space to be able to do these really crazy designs that you might want to do. And that ties into a question that somebody asked earlier about like confidence and people having these really fantastic looking portfolios and everything. I commend you all because like, you know, the social media space has gone wild with everybody having these like super well pristine curated UI UX design things, or like they're just like, yeah, I'm gonna make this 3D website and you can have all this stuff. But in my experience, it all buckles down to how much time the team really has to get a task done. And if the developers don't have time and they've got a whole ticket list of all these things that they have to do, then you just got to get the simple design done and go with it. It might hurt because you might have this passion for this great fancy thing, but you might just have to do the simpler thing that internally you might hate a little bit. So yeah, that's my little snippet.
Thank
And
you.
client budgets really tie in with that too. Like the more time things take, the more expensive it's going to be. And sometimes the client budget just doesn't allow for that.
And that can end a lot of things right there. Like you don't have the budget for it. Work within your means. So we only have like 2 minutes left, but Brandon, you started to touch on this question. I don't want to pass this up. And it's in the Q&A chat if you want to read along. So Allison's question was, design has been competitive lately. It is hard not to be discouraged from design spaces when you are rejected or see others with great portfolios. I am someone who is competitive and thrives on confidence. So I struggle when I am doubting myself in design world. If you can relate, how do you get over this phase?
I'd say most important thing, it will pass. Just look at the bigger picture. There's going to be other jobs, and your work is always going to speak for itself. Maybe not this time, but it will probably shine next time. So this is something that we all been through, and it's hard. And I think no matter what level you are as a artist, designer, you go through it. You know, you have ups and downs, but go hang out with friends, talk to mentors, and look ahead.
Anyone else? Last words? Well, thank you guys so much for just sitting in and sharing more and helping inspire my students. I hope this was helpful. Appreciate you guys so much. I give this time back to you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Clay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
This was so great and exciting. Good day.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, good luck. Absolutely.
Kill it.
Believe in yourself.